If you have a book signing coming up, you need to know this tip. This is incredibly important for your success at a book signing. Now, we're doing lots of videos on this, so if you have questions, drop those down below. Make sure you check out the other episodes. But with this one, I want to talk specifically about how to be a good vendor at an event and making sure that you are being a good neighbor vendor. That is incredibly important. So you will have a table at an event. Sometimes it's a half table, sometimes it's a whole table, sometimes it's a booth. There's a section dedicated to you, usually that you've had to pay for, and you get to vend from there. Now, we've talked about how to set up good displays, all of those things, how to make sure you're forming community there, but you have to put in the effort to be a good vendor neighbor. You cannot control what other people around you are doing. You can control your own actions and how you set yourself up for success or failure. So when it comes to being a good neighbor, you have to be mindful of the space and you have to be mindful of the people around you. In our last episode, we actually talked all about how you can be forming a community and driving traffic to each other, making sure you're helping each other get sales. They can help you can help them, all of those things. Watch the video. It's a great video. But you got to make sure you're not encroaching on their space or causing the environment to not be great. So in general, you will have a dedicated space, whole table, half table, booth, whatever. Don't go out of the bounds of your space. If you have a half table, make sure it's a half table. You are not getting in anybody else's space, and have a buffer area. You do not want to go right up to the line. That makes it really difficult to function. So make sure your books are over a little bit, a couple inches, so that you have enough room to reach down, pick things up, move things without hitting each other, hitting their books, hitting whatever. Make sure you've got a little bit of space there, and that's just common sense for being polite humans. You want to make sure that you are not elbowing anybody, you're not walking into their space, but most specifically, I do not want you to go out in front of your table. Now, we talk about how vending really is boosted when you are out in front of your table and not behind your table sitting in a chair, because it's really unapproachable. We've talked about that a lot, but if you have questions, I can do another video on it. I have long since, well before I became an author, taught people when they're vending, get out in front, turn around, look at things, have conversations with people. Don't seem as unapproachable as everybody else. When you seem like part of the crowd, it really, really helps, but that's another conversation. Get out in front of your table, but don't block traffic anywhere else. You are not making it so that people can't get to somebody else's table. I once signed at New York Comic Con, and they had a very specific rule that you could be in front of your table, but don't you dare cross the line into somebody else's space. If you are standing at your table and you inch over so that you can show something at the edge of your table, you better not be standing in front of another vendor, or they could potentially kick you out of the entire place. You got to make sure you're respecting other people's space. Do not block somebody else's table. Do not block the entrance to their table. So there's going to be a gap between the tables or the booths so people can come and go. Don't stand there. If you're going to be standing in front of your table, again, as you should, get in front of your own table. Make sure you're in your own space, and then you can show things, you can have conversations, you can relate to people. It's really, really good for your sales, but do not get into anybody else's space. So your books, your stuff on the table and under the table need to be condensed to your own space. And you want to make sure that you are not hindering the flow of traffic. So if you have yourself or your stuff in front of your table, that could potentially be hindering traffic. If it gets really trafficky, get back behind your table, get on the side or that little walkway. Again, making sure you're not blocking anybody out, but don't hinder the flow of traffic through the little walkways. You do want to make sure that you are aware of what's going on. So if you need to be directing traffic, we talked a little bit about that in the previous video. You want to make sure that you are helping to move that flow. Now, here's a thing. If you are very popular, you're going to have a lot of people. And if you have been to any signing ever, you will find that you have ebbs and flows of traffic at your table. When you have people there to look at your books or to have your book signed or to take photos with you or whatever it happens to be, when you have people there, you will usually have a lot of people there. And when there's nobody there, there's nobody there. It's not a one and then another situation. It is a situation where you're going to have a lot and then a little. So you will see it come in those ebbs and flows. So when you get hit with the massive line to look at your book, to get your book signed, whatever it happens to be, there are going to be a lot of people, and they're typically going to crowd the space. People aren't great at forming lines, and people aren't great at forming lines that stay out of other people's way. So you are responsible as the author for being a good neighbor to the people next to you. If you have a line, make sure you keep it organized, and do not make it go in front of other people's tables. You may have to ask people to wait just a second, or to stand back, or to kind of stand in the middle so people can go around them, so that you're not blocking traffic and you're not blocking anybody else's table. You have to be real quick about your engagements if there's a really long line and it's not fun. So what I typically do is that when I have those long lines and a lot of people coming and going, I will sign things quickly. I'll take a photo real quick and I'll say, I'm so sorry that I can't spend more time with you right this second. I really would love to talk to you more, but I've got this really long line and I can't hold up the traffic. I would love to speak to you more. If you want to speak to me more, please watch for the line to die down and come back. I know you've already been to me and you might feel like you can't come back a second time, but I'm asking you and giving you permission to do so if you'd like to. So I always make sure people know they are welcome to come back when the line dies down. If I can't spend enough time with them, or they would like to ask more questions, they would like to have more conversations with me, they are always welcome to come back and just hang out with me. I even tell my fans, if you need to decompress, if you need a second, if you just need to come and be quiet, if you need to show me what you've got, if you need to show me what you've been doing or tell me stories, please watch for my line to be quiet. When I have a quiet time, come talk to me. I'm always happy to have conversations, even if you're not buying books, even if you already bought books and I don't need to do anything else for you. I am more than happy to have you come back and have those conversations with me, because we know when there are crowds around your table, that entices more people, right? It's one of those things where we see everybody's lined up for that really cool coffee shop. That must be a good coffee shop. I'm gonna go check it out. When things are busy, it looks good for you. So encourage people to come back when you have those quiet times. If you see me not speaking to anybody, if you see that nobody's in front of my table, come talk to me. Invite them there, and that's going to help your sales as well. So you need to be mindful of how you're behaving. Now, you also need to be mindful of your volume. You have to be aware of how loud you are. Sometimes we can get real excited when we see fans that we know, or when we're having conversations about our books and our characters. We're really excited and we really like these things. We can get really loud. If you have fancy displays, make sure that you're not bothering people. If you have things with sound, if you have a screen with sound, if you have devices with sounds, sometimes people, depending on the different book events, they go really, really gaudy with their tables, because that is like the elite thing to do. It's the vibe of the entire event to go flashy and like really cool. I've been to some of those, and people will do things to get attention, so don't be loud, don't be flashy, that will bother people. So like, no swirling disco balls, okay? If we're flashing people's eyes with light, that is not going to make us a good vending neighbor. So you want to make sure that you're taking into account that you are staying in your space, but the things that you're doing are staying in your space as well. Do not be so big and so bold that you are problematic to other people. They have to be able to hear their fans have to be able to hear them. You want them to be as respectful as you are going to be to them. So we have to be respectful for everybody to make sure that we truly, truly are aware of where we are, and different locations are going to be different. Sometimes it's big and loud and outside and it's going to be noisy, and that's fine. And sometimes it's going to be quiet and intimate and in a library or an indie bookstore, and it's not going to be a big, huge event, and you have to be on the quieter side. So be mindful of how you're developing things and understand the event you're going to. There's usually going to be some guidelines. There will usually be some conversation, but not always. So ask people who have been to those events before, what do tables look like? Like, what is the environment here? One time I did an event and I was not told that it was like, show off how big and bold and gaudy you can make your table. Like, it was all about the flashiness. I didn't know until I arrived halfway across the country, and the night before, I whipped out some cool decorations that I made out of newspaper, because I have my newspaper address series, and it was really good, but it wasn't big and flashy like everybody else had, because I didn't know that was the environment of that event. So make sure you understand that before you go there. And if you can, if you know your seating chart, learn who's going to be next to you, reach out to them, have those conversations in advance, so that you can help each other to make sales, to collaborate on the looks of the things that you are doing, to make sure that it's going to work to benefit everybody. So if you've got questions on how to be a good vending neighbor at a book signing event, go ahead and drop those down below and follow along, because every single day we are bringing you brand new videos to help you navigate the world of publishing, from your writing to your publishing to your marketing, to make sure that this is your most profitable year ever, but the easiest that you have ever done your author community, because you're creating luxury time in your business to live your best life while your author business is working on your behalf so you can whip out those author dreams. We'll see you in the upcoming episodes.